I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And do we have any in that? Who's not here? No. Just Andrew. We just have one missing person today. It's Andrew. And the Planning and Citizens Communication, the Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comment on items relevant to the Planning and Zoning Commission not already scheduled on tonight's agenda. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published agenda will only be heard by the Commission. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the Commission. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes and will be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. Is there anyone present wishing to address the Commission? There's no one, so we're going to go to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the Commission and will be enacted by one motion. These items include preliminary and final plats, where staff has found compliance with all minimum subdivision regulations. All items approved by consent are approved with any and all staff recommendations. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If any commissioner desires to discuss an item on the consent agenda, it will be moved to the regular agenda for further consideration. Are there any items the Commission wishes to remove from the consent agenda? It does not look like there are any, so we're going to go to 3A, which is 2026-0488, approving the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes for the April 6, 2026 work session meeting. I will accept a motion for accepting the April 6th meeting minutes.
I make a motion.
I believe we make a motion for both at the same time.
Both at the same time? Okay. And approve the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes for the April 6, 2026 meeting.
So move.
A second.
Okay. And public hearing. The Commission welcomes comment on the following items. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes and will be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. And looks like it's Kristen. Yes. And we're going over 4A 2026-4067 to conduct a public hearing and consider an application to replat Lakeside Meadows Phase 1 right-of-way, an approximate 2.146 acre tract of land situated in the East Kirkland Survey number 7, abstract number 458 in Pflugerville, Texas, in order to correct right-of-way dedication to be known as the partial replat of Lakeside Meadows Phase 1.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. So tonight we have a replat of a portion of Balaton Boulevard as it connects into Phase 6 and 7 of the Lakeside Meadows plat. The original plat was recorded in 2022, and in 2024 the applicant came back and redid the lotting for Phase 6 and 7. And with that, they redid how it connects in for right-of-way. And so tonight, this replat is to adjust how the right-of-way connections along Balaton into Phase 6 and 7 here are accounted for. The plat meets local and state requirements, and staff recommends approval.
Is there anyone wishing to address the Commission about this item? And if not, then we are request a motion for.
Move to close public testimony.
Okay. Wait a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
Move to approve item 4A.
And then we're on to 4B, 2026 dash.
We have to.
Oh,
we just closed
sorry.
testimony. We
Oh,
have
yeah,
to-
sorry. All those in favor? Oh, motion, go ahead.
So move
Second.
to.
A second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? No? Okay. Back to 4B, 2026-468. Conduct a public hearing and consider an application to replat Lakeside Meadows Phase 4 and 5 right-of-way, an approximate 1.404 acre tract of land situated in the East Kirkland Survey number 7, abstract number 458 in Pflugerville, Texas, in order to correct right-of-way dedication to be known as partial replat of Lakeside Meadows Phase 4 and 5.
So we have the same situation here in Phase 4 and 5, which is just south of 6 and 7. With the redoing of the lotting for Phase 6 and 7 to change right-of-way widths along the north side of Lamont Way. And with that, the replat is set to correct those right-of-way dedications. It meets local and state requirements and city staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you.
Move to
Is-
close, sorry.
Oh, is there anyone present wishing
right.
to address the commission about this item?
That first.
Okay, nobody? So, request a motion.
Move to close public testimony.
Thank you. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? No?
Second.
Oh. Okay. And then,
Move to approve item
Yeah.
4B.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? No? Okay. 4C, Clevin, and will conduct 2026-484, conduct a public hearing and consider an application to replat lots 22 and 23, Block A, Highland Park, North Phase A, Section 1, and to add an additional approximate 1-acre parcel of land to establish Lot 1, Block A, Kensington-Lacey Boulevard, totaling 16.64 acres within the city of Pflugerville, Texas, generally located adjacent to and south of Kensington-Lacey Boulevard and east of Heatherwide Boulevard.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Cleveland Rodriguez, Planner 1 with the city. The item before you is a proposed replat and a final plat of these 3 lots to establish approximately 16.64 acres and create a lot known as Lot 1, Block A, Kingston-Lacey Boulevard within the city of Pflugerville. This request involves 3 lots, all owned by the city and currently zoned as agriculture. 2 of the lots, totaling approximately 15.64 acres, contains an existing landscape and drainage easement, along with a drainage detention pond. On your screen, it would be lots 2 and 3. The third lot, which is over here on the screen, lot number 1, is an unplatted tract of land, approximately 1 acre, and it is a flag lot. The city has leased this singular 1 acre lot, a portion of this 1 acre lot, for commercial operations, and this replat is necessary to facilitate that commercial operation. And platting that singular 1 acre unplatted lot would create a non-conforming situation. And also, since it's a flag lot, flag lots more than 100 feet in length are not allowed as per the UDC. So all these 3 lots are being combined together to form a singular lot known as Lot 1, Block A, Kingston-Lacey Boulevard. This replat meets all local and state requirements, and staff recommends approval.
Okay. Is there anyone present wishing to address the commission about this item? No? Okay. Request a motion?
Move to close public testimony.
Anybody?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nope. Okay, and request a motion for second to approve the item?
Move to approve item 4C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
4C, which is 2026, did I just read that one? No, I sure did. Sorry. Did I? That was 4C.
That was 4C,
Great,
yeah.
okay. And then 5A, 2026-0292, discuss and consider the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2027 through 2031. Matt Rector and Jeff.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
For the record, Matt Rector, Director of Utilities and Engineering. Last month, you saw a draft presentation on the CIP. Tonight, we are coming back to present the final draft. Next week at the City Council meeting, we have a presentation to City Council. We also have a joint City Council Planning and Zoning Commission meeting where we will effectively ask you to recommend the CIP to them. Before I get too far into the actual projects, we wanted to go over the questions that we have received to date from the last time we presented. I know there's a lot of words up there. I apologize for it. I didn't know a better way to do the question and answer thing. So why are there two design plans for the DR 2402 and DR 2603? I wasn't sure what two designs were being referenced in the question. Neither of the projects has been designed yet. They'll only be designed once, and that is after the project is approved. These projects haven't, in the drainage master plan, they have not actually started yet. There was a comment about DR 2402 being too far from DR 2403 to make sense. If you're trying to make a more meaningful impact and not cause random traffic congestion, this is not logical. So DR 2402 is the most downstream in that particular drainage basin. This is on the Gilliland Creek.
Where's DR at? Are we missing
Where's
pages?
drainage?
Drainage
Because
is.
DR is drainage, correct? Oh, there you go. All right,
One,
it's
two.
almost page 23
Oh, okay.
of 177. And we're talking about DR 2402.
Yeah, the drainage
Which is-
starts on page 25 of your 177 page.
Oh, it's just the numbers are different. They're A.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
but DR down there.
that's a-
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
drainage, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm. Yeah, I just couldn't find drainage. Okay.
So, yes, technically DR 2402 and 2403 are the most farthest away on that particular drainage basin that are shown in the master plan. The reason why we did them this way, typically when you do drainage, fixed drainage problems specifically along a creek, you work your way from downstream to upstream because otherwise you go fix the upstream and now you've created more of a problem downstream. In this particular instance, that's why 2402 is recommended for next year. 2403 was prioritized simply because of the number of homes and the school that is impacted by those repairs. So normally we would have said, let's do 2402 and work our way up creek. But we said, hey, you've got all these homes and you've got an elementary school that's being impacted. Let's go ahead and address that and then go ahead and start downstream as well. That's why we chose to do it that way.
Okay, so then can you flip back to the first one, the first question, 2402, yep. 2402 and 26, so the design plan, so in DR 2402, I show 217,599 twice, one in 2028, one in 2029, which equals to 435,198. And you
Yes.
stated that there aren't two designs, only one will be done? but
Right.
You're charging twice here.
No, and that's another question that'll come up later.
Okay.
Because there's a question about why are we doing back-to-back years with drainage master plans. So what you're seeing in those tables is us projecting when the project will finish, and so then we don't always finish a project in one given year. So you're seeing that we are projecting that we're going to do half the project in 1 year and the other half of the design in the second year. That's why you see the total design is $435,000, and you see 217 in FY28 and 217 in FY29.
Have any of the homes or elementary school, has there been any actual flooding in the last 10 years? Or is it just getting out of the floodplain?
I am not aware of. I haven't actually requested the data from FEMA to be able to answer that question. But in the master plan, when they ran the models, it indicates that there's a potential for flooding of these properties. So that's why it's being prioritized higher, to my knowledge, what I know of standing here before you, I don't know of any flooding issues, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I just don't have the data.
And it's in the 100-year floodplain, correct? Both of these, DR 24, the elementary and Emmanuel Road.
Yes, these are changes to the creek line, to the channel itself, to improve drainage, to reduce the flooding.
And so there are, oh, this has almost, it just changed. The school districts, or some of the schools, are being slotted for potential removal, or however you want to say it. Is Caldwell Elementary one of those schools that City of Pflugerville is thinking about closing?
I don't know the answer to that, but that's a good question.
Because then,
I don't think so, but
you don't think so?
I don't
can't
think so.
remember.
My memory
No,
is
it
up.
doesn't ring a bell. Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
In 2402, that's Emmanuel Road, and there's also work in the same area that's after this, that's on the road itself, and then also on the hiking bike path. How does that, and that's going to all happen after the flood mitigation in the schedule. Why isn't that all put together at the same time to reduce the impact and potentially lower the cost?
That's an excellent question.
Because there's a lot of examples throughout the plan where we're doing work one year, then going back to the same location a different year and doing more work. An example is on the north side of 45. One year we're laying the water line, the next year we're going in and laying the sewer line. And it seems like it would be much more cost efficient to put both of those in together, and this area is one of those examples.
Yes. So as I've been working through the CIP and as I've been getting more involved in the engineering and construction projects, I'm finding several instances of this. So one of the projects that's currently being designed for us, there's a water line project, a reclaimed water line project, and a roadway project all
Right.
along Weiss Lane.
Right.
They were being looked at as 3 independent projects with 3 independent timelines. And I am working to resolve that right now and fix that and bring those all into alignment with so they can be done as one cohesive project. So yes, there are some issues with trying to create alignment in some of these projects, but also when it comes to, and I'm not sure which road project you're talking about, right off the top of my head, or which trail project for that matter. When it comes to trying to align some of these things, we also have to look at the funding constraints. So like when we first started talking about drainage, we were trying to figure out how to prioritize the drainage projects because there's a lot of risks involved in drainage, but it's all math and science and calculations. As far as we know, there's no like actual complaints about drainage. And so when we are running these numbers and when the engineer ran their numbers and ran their models and they said, oh, it's 200 homes impacted in a school, or it's this much property, or what, those are all the maps and models. And so trying to figure out how to prioritize those, we just went off the best data available, but then we have to look at how that impacts everything else, because we have, as you see, we have 177 pages in front of you right now.
Well, I mean, but it's important to do that. I understand it may be difficult with the funding, but we're talking about a lot of potential savings. And even in the drainage section, it states that it's intended to perform the drainage section with transportation at the same time. But yet there's many cases that we're not doing that.
Do you know which road project you're referring to?
Well, in this case, we're talking Emmanuel Road, but I think there's also examples on Finning Lane, 685, on 130 and Pfluger Farm Lane. There's several different examples, not all related to drainage, but several examples where there's multiple projects, but they're happening at different times in the same vicinity. And it seems like we could probably, bring a lot of those resources and timeline together. One is less of an impact on the citizens, because when you have construction, there's delays on that road, or you have to go around different ways. And so just having that year after year. And a good example is the colored historical edition, right? We're doing roads, we're doing water, and we're doing sewer all at the same time. That's a positive example. But on many other cases, we're not doing that.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you on why we didn't.
But should we go find a good answer before we present this to the city council? I mean, should we do our best on this?
So let me just say it this way. So this is our best recommendation at this point. I think as we get more traction and so there's a lot of things happening right now. Without getting too into the weeds, we are changing the structural makeup of the engineering teams in the city. So that's going to bring more alignment and more cohesiveness to where now projects are talking to each other, so that we can start trying to align a lot of this. And so while we're making all those changes, this is the best recommendation that we've been able to come up with based on the funding available and based on what the current staff has been able to look at in the overall picture. And so, yes, in future years, absolutely, my goal is to change the way we do this entirely and start bringing cohesive, aligned, well thought out package type projects forward. This year was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. And so this is my best recommendation. And based on the calendar we have, based on the charter of the city, we're out of time. So we can't delay the presentation of this to city council.
Can you refresh us, because I do think it makes a difference, exactly what purpose this document serves and why it has to get passed, and what it means and what it doesn't mean in terms of the actual plan for spending and construction?
Sure. So the CIP, it's a 5-year plan, but you're only actually approving 1 year worth of projects.
I understand that.
So everything that you're approving, 28, 29, 30, and beyond, is just our best guess at what we need to do and when we need to do it. There's a chance that next year when you see the CIP, that 28, 29, 30 would look different than they look today. And so what we're really asking you to recommend to the city council is the projects that we need to go do next year.
And if things are not on this plan, are they not eligible for funding or something like that? Or what give and take is there for if midway through, we get to October and you realize, oh, we really want this other thing in 2027. What option is there now?
So you're saying like if we've approved the CIP, we've approved a budget, and then halfway through the year we figure out that we should have done a different project?
Right. Is it not possible because it's not on the CIP, or is it still possible?
I mean, we do periodically take budget amendments to the city council, so I guess theoretically when we did a budget amendment, we could go to the city council and suggest that they look at doing some other project and swapping it out, so to speak, with one of the projects that they did approve. That's always, I guess, a possibility.
So I guess if there were changes, I think the concern you're hearing is that we're not city planners, and it's a lot of projects and a lot of money. And I think I'm just trying to understand how fixed this document is, and I get the point you're making. You have to have it. You have to have a CIP.
Right.
But it's helpful to know if it looks different. If things need to change, there are ways to change them.
Yes, there are. So, in an ideal situation, like we talked about last time, in an ideal situation, we would have come to you with drainage 1 week, streets a different meeting, so on and so forth, and had been able to go very into the weeds and talk through every project, and then and that's the way I've done it in other cities, where I bring my best recommendation forward, and then this body comes back and says, well, we think that respectfully, we want to decline your recommendation, and we want to reprioritize everything. And that's your prerogative, because it's your CIP that you recommend to the city council. And then they have the same prerogative where they can say, well, we respectfully disagree, and we're going to change everything anyway. And I've seen that play out. So, in an ideal world, yes, there would have been a lot of changes. Unfortunately, this year, we're under a time crunch. We're trying to put our best foot forward and be as thoughtful and proactive and planned out as we can be. There is some wiggle room for city council, and I know it's not much time. We brought it to you last month, and now we're asking you next week to come basically make a recommendation to city council. So if there are changes that you would like to make, other than like redo the whole thing kind of situation, that's the point of tonight, is to kind of get to a point where we're and you'll see as we go through this slideshow, we've already been making changes to the draft that we had presented, and just for full transparency, we've already been making changes after this draft that you got for tonight. So it's still in flux, and we're doing our best to try to keep up and roll with the changes given the time crunch that we're in. Anything else?
Can I recommend that we keep proceeding with the, like the different comments? And, you know, so I think the point that everyone's making, you know, this is a yearly, like annually updated document. I think there'll be probably certain questions and comments too that come up because it is associated with a bond that's going to be coming up this year. But noted, if in the future we can make sure that we're prioritizing, looking at projects centered in specific areas so that maybe we just have one designer doing it, optimizing timeline and cost, noted from your side. So if y'all can take that as a comment to consider, we appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks.
So another comment we got on drainage was that 2801, 2503, and 2603 make more sense because they were in the master plan back in 2022. So the reason that these were not prioritized very highly is that these are all downtown projects that are intended to benefit current and future development or redevelopment, and we prioritized ones that were going to have a benefit on properties and schools rather than just facilitating growth and redevelopment.
So 2603, though, it doesn't involve any flooding, it doesn't impact any residences, but it's $10.4 million. So why are we doing that one?
That one it's part of the master plan that was done, and you can see that we prioritized it out into 2029. So we're not prioritizing it to be done next year or the year after. We're saying that we can push that one off for a couple of years and kind of let development happen. And my goal, one of my goals, is always to try to work with developers as they come in to try to get them to pay as much of this stuff as we can get them to pay for.
But that's not reflective in the capital improvement plan, right? I mean, you know, I know it's not happening next year, so we're not spending the $10.4 million this year, but it's in the plan.
Right.
You know, but it doesn't impact any citizens, it doesn't have any flooding concerns, but we're still budgeting it for a few years.
For future years, yes. And that's one of the things that I'll just take this second to point out, that when and I don't know how long any of you have been on this board, but when
About
we
4 months, so. okay.
well, you got here about the same time I did. So actually, you're a little ahead of me. But when we bring like the drainage master plan, the roadway master plan, all those types of plans to you guys for consideration, like those are the ideally the kind of feedback that we would be getting to say, hey, why would we even consider this? Because, right? I mean, we hire a consultant. They come in and they tell us, here's the things that you should do based on what your development is projected, what we think the priorities are, the feedback they get from staff. And so I wasn't here for the drainage master plan, and at some point I'll get to stop saying I wasn't here for things. But all I know is that when we sat down and did the evaluation, this 2603 project, to me, sounded like it was more for growth and redevelopment. And I've got projects in the master plan that are supposed to benefit people's property and protect property and life and things like that. And I said, well, this one can wait. And when we redo the drainage master plan, maybe this doesn't even make it on the list next time. I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Speaking of drainage master plan, so this is one that I had commented on earlier. It said that it looks like we're doing it in 27 and 28. Again, that's just the way we do the funding, so that we can show that it's not going to be done all at one time. A lot of times we don't even start these projects until several months into the year, and most of these projects don't get done quickly, and so they inevitably have to carry over from one year to another, and so we show the funding that way so that we can actually budget and plan for it. So a question we got was status of the 2020 bond projects and existing debt. So we will cover this in slides that are coming up. How is existing bond debt currently being managed? So we have the 5-year forecast model to help assist with the updates to tax rates and utility rates based on the schedule. Is any portion of the new bond intended to pay down or refinance existing debt? No. It is all for new projects. Will the bond strictly fund completion of projects that are still underway? The bond is intended to strictly fund completion of projects, so that is true. Tax impact, will approval of the new bond result in increase to the current tax rate, or is it intent to keep the tax rate flat? Based on current estimates, there would be an increase to tax rates. And since there is an increase, the answer to the next one is it doesn't apply because it's not expected to stay flat. Clear comparison of original cost estimates versus current projected costs for major projects. We'd be here all night if I tried to break down everything that changed from old projects to new projects, so we would need a better idea of which particular projects we want to see this on. Updated projects on key transportation projects. Again, I could probably poll the group and get a different answer on what a key transportation project is. Some people would say 685, some people would say Kelly Lane, some people would say Pecan, some people would say Weiss. So trying to get more information before we can answer that question. How are current and projected population growth trends being factored into the infrastructure planning? So when we go through the whole master plan effort that I was just talking about, one of the things that the consultants do is they look at all of the growth that has been happening. They look at developments that are currently being considered, and then they project out into the future what they think the growth is based on demographics and a bunch of other things. That's all figured into those master plans, which then feed the CIP, which then comes back to you full circle.
I'm curious, how often do we do the population planning, demographer? How often do we do that? Every 3 years, 5 years? What's our cadence?
Commissioner, I don't know that we've ever done a demographer here. We do have our own estimates that we work with,
Okay.
and then, of course, we always bring those back to the census, and hopefully not the annual target, because those numbers are not statistically correct for the most part. But I do know that we are also looking at talking to the ISD's demographer, despite that the ISD has a slightly larger boundary than we do, of course, with some of our ATJ. But I do not believe that we've ever used a demographer.
Okay.
Project prioritization and connectivity. Why are projects being initiated rather than prioritizing completion and connectivity of existing corridors? So one of the updates that we've made since the last time you saw this is we actually went through and figured out which projects we have full funding for and which projects we need additional funding for. And you will see in this version and in the next version where projects have been realigned so that we finish the projects that we have full funding for first, rather than taking that money and putting it onto starting other projects and then trying to add more debt to currently ongoing projects. So we are trying to reprioritize to make that make more sense. Let's see, 2904, 2907 appears to be more aligned with improving connectivity to 685. Why is it not being extended further? And then 2907, why it follows the 685. How does this project reduce congestion? So both of these are actually called relief routes. The idea behind them, in addition to being future corridors that we can use, is the main focus is when we go do FM 685, we're going to need ways to reroute that congestion. And so that's why these are called relief routes, is that it gets some of that traffic off 685 when we're doing all that construction. What's the projected traffic impacts on 2904 and 2907? So I just kind of explained that one. We don't have a lot of traffic impacts on that right now. We're thinking that those are relief routes, so when we start put 685 under construction, some of those people can go to those other roads and we don't just have a huge log jam on 685. Coordination and road extensions. Why does 2904 not extend to the toll road? Again, relief route, we were focusing on just trying to get 685 flow. We weren't focusing on all that stuff. There is a development over there that could potentially extend the road. We are adding a stub out so that it can connect in the future, but the purpose of the project was to provide relief temporarily. Why does the project not extend to the Texas Med Clinic area and across East Finnig? Again, relief route, we were focusing on just trying to provide that relief, not project out into the future. Multiple design phases. Yes, we have had multiple design phases on many projects, and that is a very traditional method in specifically municipal government, where you do a 30%, 60%, 90%, 100% bid set. And so we are looking at trying to streamline that and make it much more time sensitive. Strategy in place to reduce design duration. Yes, we are looking at all of our options to reduce the design timelines and construction timelines, trying to find ways of moving things faster.
So as part of that, I'm just curious, are y'all looking at some of those more expedited contracting types, like construction manager at risk, and maybe packaging more projects together to get like better involvement from larger general contractors and architects to speed up timelines? Like, is that the type of things that y'all are investigating? Minus
Yeah, we
the
actually have our
traditional-
first two CMAR projects in construction right now.
That's the city hall and the.
Oh, sorry, I guess we have three: City
Okay.
Hall, Public Works Building, and the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, great.
Has the city considered performance-based benchmarks or accountability measures for design consultants to assure timelines? So I'm not sure that I can really answer if the city has considered performance-based benchmarks. It is something that I have presented in other cities that I've been in, and typically the city council is not too keen on giving bonus-type payouts to consultants. But as far as accountability measures, you're very limited in the state of Texas on what you can do to professional consultants. As far as, you can't really do, you could try, you can't really put in liquidated damages. Most consulting firms won't even sign on to that kind of a contract. And that's really the limit to what you can do to anybody that you sign into a contract with. Government agencies are not allowed to be punitive. You can only recoup your damages, and you have to be able to prove up those damages. And so that's where that is. Okay. Any questions about the questions before I move on to the... Okay. So talking about the 2020 bonds, And you'll see it when we get to transportation that we reprioritize some of these things. We've updated our website. These are some snapshots from the updates. So we have 21 total active projects on the 2020 bond propositions. 2 are in coordination, 19 are active. Total expenses, you can see there, a total of 191.3 million. Projects by phase. So, we have of the 32 projects, 4 have not started, 3 have been canceled, 9 are complete, 6 are in construction, 1 is doing utility relocates, and 9 are in design. We've completed 28.1%, and we are still working on the other 70, call it 72%. And then the final piece, and I think this was really the crux of the question that was asked, how much remains? And so here you can kind of see of the money that was out there, we have spent 27 million. We have 74 million left over. We have sold and encumbered about 40.5 million of the bond. We have sold and unencumbered, which means we've sold it, but we haven't actually earmarked it yet, 61 million. So I'm hoping that those, I know I went through those kind of quick, I'm hoping that those answer the question about where we are with the 2020 bond projects.
When we look at that number today, how does it compare against the plan that we had forecasted? Are we on track or?
I can't speak for all of the projects because I honestly don't remember all the timelines that were originally included in them.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that a lot of your road projects are behind schedule.
That's what it feels like. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just a general note. This is related to the CIP in some ways and the 2026 bond. But it could be a challenge over the next handful of months to, it's been 6 years and having encumbered $40 million of the 191 million, just noting that communication-wise, it could become very challenging. Well, why do we need to take on more debt now? Can we just focus our resources on delivering the 2020 bond? So I would just, make sure to discuss that internally and have really good understanding as to what is unencumbered, why certain things need to be prioritized in 2026 bond, and a pretty solid justification to go for a bond right now. Just noting that challenge related to how much of the 2020 bond has been completed at this point.
So here's a quick map showing the road projects from the 2020 bond. Basically just gives you a frame of reference of where they all are and what is happening. I think we have one coming up later. This is another change that we've made to the website showing kind of a rundown. So you can see this is the Prop A, so this is roads. First 3 are complete. The bottom 2 are in construction. And then you have the top 2 here, which these are the intersection improvements that are complete. You have 3 in design, and then 1 that has not yet started. It says it's in coordination with the county. That should be changed. It's actually in coordination with TxDOT to talk about the SH 130 at Gaddy School and 138. Transportation projects, you've got 2 in design, 2 in construction. Other transportation projects, SH 45, so we're still working through that process with TxDOT and trying to talk through that project. And then you have the Cameron Road, which was TR 2007, and that one was removed from the capital improvement plan. It was transferred over to a developer. Then you have some design-only projects. 2 of those are complete and 2 of those are still in design. And then this was an effort to try to color code these so you can see which ones are completed and which ones are designed. Cindy, help me out. What color means what?
Looking for our key.
I don't see the key on there. Let me go ahead for a few slides and see. Green is complete,
Green.
I would think so.
yellowish is in construction, purple is design, blue is not started, and red is canceled. Okay. So you can see got a lot of green on there, which I'm assuming with the same key. So that's complete. Okay, we'll update this map.
I think we got it in the updates for council next week.
Okay. All right, Prop B. So same type of wheel chart here of the Prop B. We have sold and encumbered 3.8 million. We've sold and unencumbered 38.4 million. We have 19.2 million remaining, and we have spent 23.1 roughly. And do you guys want to cover the park projects? You can probably do it a lot better than I can.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff O'Shea, Assistant Parks and Rec Director. There you see our projects from 2020. We'll walk through each one. So the neighborhood parks that were part of the 2020 bond project, we've completed two. We completed Wilbarger Phase 2, the southern portion of Wilbarger with the new dog park, parking, and trail extensions was completed last year. Mallard, which has several different names, we're now calling it Murkison Park because that makes the most sense with its location, was complete the first part of this year. Kelly Lane Park's in progress. That's the park we discussed, our first pickleball courts in our system. Substantial completions later this month, and then punch outs first part of June. So that one is very, very close to being complete. And then y'all may remember if you've been involved for a little bit, but we had a couple other parks, Pecan and Piccadilly. Pecan was canceled a couple years ago due to really it's just not feasible with drainage issues to construct that park. For context, we had a 2014 undeveloped parks plan. It's 2014, and largely when you do those parks, they're conceptual. They look at the city as a whole and look at where you have undeveloped parks and say these might be good spaces if there are areas that are underserved or things like that. They don't really get into the floodplain issues or some of the other issues that might kind of rear their head when you get into engineering, preliminary engineering. And so all of these parks were part of that undeveloped parks master plan. Then Pecan, again, canceled in 2022 because of the floodplain issues. That's not feasible to construct a park in that location. Piccadilly, though, is canceled because of the same reason. However, Piccadilly Park, we're working with the Public Works folks to, when we get to the point when they're doing drainage improvements in that area, to build a trail connection basically from where Piccadilly is to Grand Avenue, so further connecting the Gillen Creek Trail corridor. So that's not being funded this year or next year, and so that is that's on hold until we get to that point. And to the earlier point, we will work in conjunction with the drainage team to put those together. That way, it's all constructed at one time. You get some cost savings there. So it's still a site that we will come back to, but the funding has been moved from those two parks. We also had trail improvements. This says it's in progress. However, I will say the 1.6 million for trail improvements was spent pretty early on after 2020. We're still doing trail improvements year after year. They're funded by general fund now, and then on the 2026 bond, we'll look to fund some of our future trail improvement projects. We had a lot of low-hanging fruit on our trail improvement projects. We have since, this year is our first year to really get into, I think I explained this at the last meeting, some of our more complex projects that are going to require some additional engineering. It's not just simple trail connections, places where you might have bridges or you have to deal with utility easements, things like that. So we're starting to get into some of those complicated projects we had put off in the past. And then land acquisition, the funds were used for Downtown East, and then also put into the Destination Play project since we're utilizing Bowles Park for destination play, we saved money on land acquisition, so that money was moved into that project. 1849 Park Phase 2 is complete. That's our 2 baseball fields, softball field, and event lawn at 1849. We are still waiting with the water restrictions. We wanted to make sure that those fields are established, so we're still waiting to open those. We don't want to get a bunch of kids on those fields, and then we've got to come and do repairs to the turf within the first year of it opening with the lighter watering we've been doing. So hopefully that opens as soon as we possibly can. Really excited about that project. It's beautiful out there. And then Lake Pflugerville Phase 2 and Destination Play. Lake Pflugerville Phase 2, we just had our design team approved by City Council, so we've got a kickoff for design of Lake Pflugerville Phase 2 on Wednesday. And Destination Play, we're in scope and fee negotiations with the design team, and we'll hopefully be taking that to council very soon.
Isn't the 1849 park, doesn't that water come from Mansfield?
It's Manville. We
Manville.
have a certain amount of water, and so other city projects, because it's not Pflugerville water, are utilizing that water as well. So we
Right.
have lowered what we're doing so that can be taken and used for other things. So it's being watered 2 days a week right now, and for a new facility, we really need that watered 5
Okay,
to be able to establish that turf. So it's getting water. It's not going to deteriorate. It's not
Okay.
going to die. It's not getting enough on it right now to see that foot traffic.
okay.
Yeah, and there you see the map explaining the status of those projects. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
None here.
Oh, I got one more. So Prop C, the Recreation Center, that's obviously in progress. You can see it when you go down 685. Expected completion on that is December 2026. As a reminder, getting the second largest municipal recreation center in Texas at 100. It's actually 139,000 square feet with 10,000 square feet of retail. The 4 high school basketball courts, large fitness and cardio area, indoor aquatics, indoor turf with a turf ramp up to the weight room, the adventure track, recreation and event rooms that we'll be able to program in different ways, rent out in different ways, a multi-gen lounge, an indoor play space for kids to get out of the elements when it's either too hot or too rainy, a child watch area, and then the 3rd floor, you can see the patio in that photo is the 300-person event space with a teaching kitchen. So with that being said, now I can answer any questions you have.
Good.
And I don't know, just related to the Downtown East project, and maybe this isn't the spot to say it, so I apologize if so. But within the SIP, right now, I think there's only one line item or one page that's for like the rec center, the city hall, the Main Street extension, and the parking garage. I would recommend, if possible, that we have more detail related to the different aspects of that project. And maybe this is something we can just circle back to. I don't know if we're going to come back to some of the SIP related items. And then I noticed that there was another parking garage. That's not the parking garage that's being constructed right now. That's a parking garage, like a second parking garage that's within the SIP. I'm sorry, it's in this world, but
38. Page 38.
so yeah, there's downtown parking garage FA 2709 with spending 3.8 million in 2027 and then 21 million in 2028. I guess that's a future. That's not next year, but
future.
that's future. But that would be a second parking garage. It's not the ones being constructed currently.
Correct.
Okay. So that's not really a comment for Jeff, but more just for the SIP in general. I don't know if it's possible to have a little bit more detail related to that. But that's a lot of different infrastructure related items contained in one page.
So you're saying like change the way we did 2203? Is that the question?
Yes.
Or just a consideration. I think there'll be a lot of comments and questions related to that in the future. And that's a large amount of the projected costs of 2026 and 2027.
So for clarification, that's for a future year, not this year.
Well, there is 1 year, there is 2026, that there's almost 149 million.
Right,
Yeah.
but the future project is what you think there will be.
Oh, sorry. I was asking clarity. I was just asking clarity on the parking garage, the downtown parking garage. I was asking two
For the-
questions
for
and
the
one,
future.
sorry, or two comments and one. The FA 2203, which is the one line item, that's the City Hall, the Rec Center, Main Street, but I'm assuming that includes the current parking garage that's being built. I would just recommend like maybe a little bit more breakout related to those, especially since there's different funding sources related to them. You know, we're noting the multi-generational rec center, 2020 funding, 2020 bond funding. And then I was just asking a question on the downtown parking garage. That would be a second parking garage, but that'd be 2027. Okay.
Which is also FA 2709. FA 20.
2709. Sorry. I just, it came up, so that was one of my comments. Just going to the SIP really quick. Thank you.
So some of the changes that we've made. So what you have in front of you is draft 2. What you had seen last month was draft 1. Maps were updated. Obviously, we need to clean that up a little better. General fund and utility fund detail pages are edited to correct pages of all the projects. We changed. I always get in trouble with finance directors because I like to budget down to the penny if I can, and finance directors don't like that, especially when I'm talking about stuff that's 5-6 years out. And so we changed everything to the full dollar. 9 projects, we've updated the descriptions and justifications, which actually includes 2709. But we can go back and look at 2203 and look at making that a little more robust. And then we've updated pictures on 4 of the projects. We reprioritized the drainage projects, and we reordered the transportation projects. So we put the 2020 bond projects right at the top. We color coded them. We're screaming it out. These are the 2020 bond projects. So we're going to put them right up there so everybody can see what's happening with them. And then the prioritization from there was projects that are in construction, projects that are in bidding, then projects that are in design, projects that are further out in like the study or PER, and then projects that we have not started yet. So we moved the 685 corridor projects out to future dates, and then adjusted everything else around that. We shifted some costs and funding around by doing this reprioritization scene. This is what I was talking about earlier, where we looked at how much money we have to fund certain projects so that we can fully fund those projects rather than, I don't know a better way to do it. You're spreading your money out and then you're like, okay, now I got to go spread all this money out again in the future. We said, all right, let's take all that money we have right now, focus it on these projects, get them done and off the books, and then we'll limit the future debt to projects that we either have barely started or that we haven't started at all, kind of thing. The other thing that we have done is we are recommending to the bond committee that we do not do a transportation bond this year. And so we have removed 2703, which was the 2026 bond management. There will still be other projects in the bonds, but right now we are recommending to that committee that we do not move forward with the transportation bond.
Can you remind us of because you had mentioned that the transportation part of the 2020 bond was the one that was kind of having schedule challenges. I just a note, I think that's a really important part of the communication related to a future bond is the consideration and fact that we're not looking at a transportation bond and maybe even saying that is in relation to finishing those portions of it. I'm not sure how much exactly of the 72% is related to transportation, but I do think that could be helpful when it comes to communicating the need for a 2026 bond. So that's great. I'm glad that that decision was made.
And then same thing, I kind of worked through all of the different breakdowns and reprioritize projects and try to figure out ways to best use available dollars, reallocating things, shifting things around, delaying some projects that were either focused on things that weren't, in my opinion, as critical. I'm trying to be cognizant of both the needs of our infrastructure as well as the funding issues that we're going to be facing as we start trying to pay for, a multi-billion-dollar CIP. Okay, so that was to get to draft 2, which is what you have in front of you. I already told you that we're already working on draft 3. So we've removed a couple other projects. We've updated Emmanuel Road because we just put that one into construction. Council just awarded that construction contract at the last council meeting. We've changed TR 2006 to spend some more of the money. We, again, shifted prioritization so we could put more money into projects that we're currently actively working on. Funding was updated on the FA 2203 project and all these others. And so where does that put us? Okay. So we're obviously presenting draft 2 to you guys tonight while we're working on draft 3. We are requesting formal approval by this body, and we are asking that there be a joint meeting with City Council next week to present your recommendations on the CIP to them. And then we will come back to City Council again at the second meeting in May with a target of trying to get them to do a final acceptance of the CIP in June so that that's all locked up, and then we can use all that in the analysis for the budget that will hopefully be adopted by the first meeting in September. So we didn't go project by project. We wanted to keep it somewhat high level because we've already presented all the projects other than the shifts that we've made. So with that, I will stop and open it up to any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. Let you guys debate amongst yourselves which projects you want to do and which ones you don't want to do, those kind of things.
I do have a question. So how much from what you've removed from CIP 1 to CIP 2, how much of a savings do you think you got?
Well, savings, I would say
Reduction. I won't say
Um,
savings, we haven't spent any money. This is for 20.
Zero. Yeah, so what we did, I don't know if
Because the totals have changed, correct? Like, so for the CIP transportation funding sources, the total for 2027 for next year has changed, correct? 'Cause
Yes.
You've removed some.
Yes.
So the total number of all those numbers would be different. So like this one's for transportation, it's $958 billion, seems like so much. Wouldn't it be less? Wouldn't it have been more last month? And now this month it's less?
No, the total amount basically is the same.
Okay,
All we did was reallocate dollars from project to project.
gotcha.
So if we had, and I'll just throw a generic example out there.
Right.
So if we had Project X and it was 50% funded with current dollars and 50% funded with future dollars, and then I had Project Y that I thought was more important and we were further along, then I would push Project X out, take all the available dollars out of it, put that up here so that I have the fully funded project, and then all of the cost of Project X goes to some future dollar issues.
Okay.
So the total amount stays the same. It's just how you balance that number between currently available funds and future debt.
Okay.
You mentioned that there's still work ongoing on the CIP. When's that work going to be finished?
Ideally, it would have been finished before we gave you draft 1, but realistically, I don't anticipate that it'll be done until we are presenting the final version to City Council in June. Because we'll take forward whatever you guys give us tonight, that'll add into draft 4, I guess you want to call it, because we're already working on 3, so we'll make changes again. And then whatever feedback we get from City Council would go into the next draft. Excuse me. So I don't know if that,
Well, so the CIP that's being presented to City Council, when is that going to be ready?
So our target is as soon as you guys give us your recommendations tonight, that we finish that up by Thursday, so that we can have it posted for city council on Tuesday.
The next one will be the 26th.
I'm sorry?
We post these tomorrow.
Oh, so we have to post for the May 12th meeting tomorrow. So, draft 3 will be what we present to city council next week. Draft 4 would be what we present to city council on 26, which would include whatever you guys recommend tonight.
Maybe another way of asking the first question, for the 2026 bond, since you talked about removing transportation bond, I can't remember what you said the 2026 bond was gonna be. If you remember, great, but can you tell us what are you asking for now in a 2026 bond?
There are, I believe, 3 other categories of the 2026 bond. There is parks facilities, the paws, the animal shelter, and then the parking garage. Those are the 3 that are still being put forward. We still have to get through the bond committee and all that kind of stuff, but those are the 3 that staff is now recommending to the bond committee for them to recommend to city council so we can put it forward for a vote.
And would that be the only new debt taken on to be paid for in 2027? Or, I'm not a bond person, so I don't understand the debt. Is there, other than what you just said for the 2026 bond, do you have all of the money for the actual 2027 spending? Or would you have to go into debt in other ways?
No, there would still be additional debt that we have to incur. So there are still road projects, water projects, wastewater projects, reclaimed water projects that could potentially require, that will require additional debt. So for the water, wastewater, and reclaimed water, we've been using WIFIA loans. And so that is already in process. We already know what we're going to be asking for from there. One of the things that we've been trying to look at is projects that are outside of the 2026 bond election. How do we fund those? Which ones are going to get prioritized? Because it's a constant balancing act, right? Because you have that, assuming that they all get voted for, that's a certain impact to our debt rate. And so then we have other projects that we want to try to achieve. So talking to finance, and they're constantly updating their numbers, trying to look at, of those other projects, how many of them could we fund based on where we want the debt rate to be, which ultimately affects the tax rate. So, long way to answer, yes, there would be additional debts that we would be taking on.
How much what would be the impact if what we recommended to city council was approve the CIP, but with the caveat of no new debt? Like for 2027. Take a pause. And anything that requires you to have more debt, anything that requires an increase in tax rate, wait till 2028.
I've actually lived through this. So the ramifications from my perspective is really it's status quo. I just don't, anything that's fully funded by future debt, we just don't start it. We would just say, okay, we're pushing that out to start in 2028. Anything that is partially funded, we just get it to where we stop it based on existing dollars, which is part of that reprioritization that I've already done, is if I need to go borrow money for, let's say, a road project to be able to fund construction and all the other things, I just said, no, push it out. We'll stop at design. We'll put the plans on the shelf. We'll wait till we have the money, and then we'll go back and pull them off the shelf and go do it. And so that's really it. It's a paperwork exercise for me and my team to basically live with what city council decides. And I know that because I've done it in other cities where we go through the whole process, we recommend it, city council goes, we're not raising the debt one penny. So figure out what projects you can do, and that's all you get to do. And so then we change everything and we live within that directive.
And one of the downsides of that, though, is if you're in the middle of projects and you have to stop, is it could be more costly to pick it back up later. So as another option, if we were to say recommend, and this is all just, I'm just
Yeah, sure.
theorizing. If we were to recommend anything that you have spent money on in 2026, anything that has started, great, continue. But if it has not started as of 2027, don't start it until 2028. Is that a feasible recommendation that we could make?
Yes. And then the other thing that you could do if you're concerned about debt rate and tax rate, which sounds like that's where this conversation is going, you could always say basically that whatever you've already started on, finish it out, but don't take in any more debt than X, right? Because we don't want to raise. We're already doing a bond election. We know how much that's going to change the tax rate. Sorry, I don't actually talk this much. And we don't want to raise the tax rate any more than 1 penny above that number, or whatever the number is that you guys are going to recommend. And then they give us that directive, and we just figure out with finance how much we can afford. Like in a prior city that I worked in, they said we don't want to raise the tax rate at all. So tell us how much money we can borrow without affecting the tax rate by 1 penny. And so we did the numbers, and we said you can do X number of millions of dollars a project and not change your tax rate by 1 penny. And they said, that's how many you get to do, now pick your projects.
Thank you.
Have
I
you-
just wanted everybody to know what when we say recommendation to council, what could that look like? What that
So have we really scrubbed through this and see what we really need to spend in 2027? And an example, and it may not have a bearing, but like the library roof replacement is $350,000 next year. But in 2028, we start a library expansion. Are we wasting some of that money on a roof replacement in 1 year and then the next year starting an expansion? I don't know the plans, but are those the type of things we're thinking about? Also, like, there's money being allocated to improve the city council ADA accessibility. That's this room, but we're moving over to the new building. So is that something, are we in compliance? Are we trying to improve? Do we need to go into compliance when we're going to be implementing the new city council chambers in the new building, which I'm sure is ADA compliant? You know, so have we gone through that? And then looking at what we're doing in 2027, 2028, I mentioned one, like on State Road 45, we're putting a water line in 2027 and a sewer line in 2028. Can we move the 2027 one to 2028 and combine them? Because I have a lot of concern with saying we're going to raise taxes when there seems to be a lot of room that we can save money.
Those are all very fair statements. I will say on the library roof and the expansion, again, 2028 is not locked. It's just a plan. It's a guess. I'm actually guessing that in order to do your library expansion, you're probably going to have to do.
It's our library expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to do the expansion, you're going to have to go out for some big bond consideration, and so.
But
will it
shouldn't we
actually
know
happen?
the answer to that before we spend $350,000?
Excuse me.
I mean, it seems like it would be, we're not talking a long period of time from now for 2028 when you're planning a capital project, right? Seems like we should be able to have that pretty much set and understand what we're going to do before we spend other money that we may have to undo. I mean, that's what this is for, right?
Yeah.
That's why we have a 5-year plan, so we can coordinate these things.
Right.
But it seems like there's some room for improvement. And I understand the city staff's put a lot of work in this. I understand that. I'm not negating that.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in after the fact with a bunch of questions. So I don't
And
mean,
they're all fair questions.
but it just seems like we have an opportunity here. And I'd much rather us pursue those opportunities before we raise taxes.
And that's the, I don't have any ill feelings toward you asking the questions. I think it's 100% justified. That's why you guys are here, is to push us and help us do better. I welcome the questions because honestly, I get into my engineer brain and I get into the like project specific things and I miss things. So, you know, like I said at the start, this was my best recommendation based on my 3.5 months here. And so I am completely willing to push projects out, adjust them however you guys think I need to do that, so that you guys are comfortable recommending the CIP, however, whatever it ends up looking like, to City Council. So if the suggestion from this body is push the library out another couple of years.
Well, I think it's more than that. That's just an example.
No, and that's fair, but
What I really recommend is I think that different departments need to sit down and look at where they're overlapping, and this is the best way and the most cost-effective way we can approach this, and this is when we ought to do it based upon funds. And, you know, so that you can get water, you can get sewage, you can get roads, you can get trails all together in this one area and say, this is how we need to approach it. Do we treat it as one project? Or is it a couple of different projects? Who's taking the lead on it? Those type of things.
Yeah.
And then we can come up with probably a reduced cost.
yeah, and that's a very fair statement, and that's, like I said, that's something that we're working towards. We're not there yet.
But this isn't the first year we've done this, right?
No, you
Okay.
guys have had CIPs for many years.
Yeah.
Well, and that's also a good point, to be fair to staff. A lot of what y'all are doing in your engineer hat is finding a way to make all of this fit into a plan based on several different master plans and city budgets and former CIPs that ostensibly told you we want these things in
Right.
2027 and 2028.
Right.
Yeah.
And so certainly recognize y'all are trying to give us and city council what you think we told you to go do.
Yes.
And it's hard because having been here a number of years, from our end, we get this document and think, okay, this is what city staff wants to do, so we should let them. And then y'all look at it like, well, this is what we were told to do, so we better do it. And it can feed on itself.
Yeah.
So y'all are doing what we've told you to do.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who were here for the 6 o'clock meeting, when they presented the impact fees. So they went through the land use assumptions and the CIP that were in the water master plan that was just approved in 2025, the wastewater master plan that was just approved in 2025. And in those plans, they laid out groups of projects that should happen in 2025, should happen in 2026, so on and so forth for the 10 years of the master plan, even though we update them every 5 years. And so, yes, effectively, we're trying to live within that, but we're also trying to play that balancing game that we think you guys are going to be okay with, right? Because I'm looking at the parks guys, they don't always get along with engineers. I mean, we get along great, but they don't always right? I mean, sometimes I just say, hey, I need to put a road right through your park. And then they look at me and say, no, you can't do that. Or sometimes I need to put a water line right through a pavilion. And so we're constantly balancing and shifting and trying to figure all that out. And yes, a lot of it is we are looking at our crystal ball trying to figure out what the various bodies want, right? Because those guys, they answer to a body. They have the Parks Board. Parks Board wants very specific things. Then we have to come to you guys, and you guys want very specific things. And then we have to take it to City Council, and they want. So we're all trying to read our crystal ball and understand what we think you're telling us to do. And then we come forward and maybe we got it right, maybe we didn't. So that's why I'm like, questions are justified. I'm good to go with whatever direction you guys give. I just need the direction.
You mentioned earlier that we were out of time. I don't know the schedules or the timeline. What does that actually mean?
So
What
the
is it?
city charter requires that the Planning and Zoning Commission present a CIP recommendation to the city council 120 days before the start of the new fiscal year. So if you back that out, October 1st is the start of the new fiscal year, you back it out to 120 days, that means by June 3rd, if I did the math right, you have to present your CIP recommendation to city council. Now, when we put the schedule together, we said that we were going to do it in May, so we were going to have ourselves, number one, we don't have a meeting, we only have the two meetings, May 12th and May 26th, before the June 3rd deadline. So that's why I'm saying we're kind of out of time. And that's why we're throwing all these random drafts at you as quick as we can, because we're feeling that pinch and we're trying to make all the pivots that we think you're going to want us to make. You know, I'm doing a lot of cleanup stuff, trying to find those inconsistencies, trying to find where I can put projects together and combine things. And so I'm trying to give you the best information that I can on the fly, but that's what I meant by we're basically out of time.
Fair enough. There's some great recommendations that came out, but it feels like the runway is short. I'm just trying to figure out, is there an opportunity to bring some of this in, but if the runway's just fixed and there's no room to move it, then it is what it is. I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like.
And that's where to whatever extent my experience is beneficial, I would recommend that we give high level recommendations, things like, are we okay with more debt or are we not? Are we okay with increased tax rate or not? Because that is a policy perspective that we as a commission can give. I share the same. I'm not sure why a library roof. I'm not sure why we need the pause building. I don't know that. So I hesitate to give specific project recommendations because I don't know that we have the knowledge, and I would hate to kick a project off your list that is actually very important, or to elevate a project that is not important. So that's, for what it's worth, my advice to the group.
I agree.
Well, first, I'd like to say, trying to have like the same thing you have going on. A huge thank you. I know I think we've mentioned this multiple times, but this is a huge effort for everyone within the city, along with preparing for a bond, along with everything that's been going on with, water. So really appreciate it. I know that y'all are juggling a lot of different things right now. I agree. I think that like our recommendation should be probably more on a general side, I don't know. I think some of my my questions are specific, but I feel like they kind of lead to like a general idea as well. Like the Justice Center expansion is a future CO debt that would be in 2027. When CO debt, is that property tax impact, but does not go to voters?
Right.
So things like that I find really concerning. I think that if we know we're wanting to do a project within the next fiscal year, and we know that that is a priority as like a city, and it will be an impact to property tax. I personally think that it should go to voters as an option within this upcoming bond if it's anticipated to start next fiscal year. So like a general statement, so noting that project, there might be other projects related to that as well. Like a high level comment that I would have, if other commissioners would agree with it, is that if we are prioritizing in the next fiscal year funding related to projects that do have property tax impact, that it should be included as a proposition in the 2026 bond program. Like, for example. But I don't know what Emily just said.
Oh, so no, it was just pointed out that some of the costs that you see, like in 2027, for example, the Justice Center, is design, so that we can start getting out in front of the design. Some of the concern, so let me just back up and tell you, part of the conversation that we've had as staff on why we decided to not push forward with the road projects that we were recommending in the 2026 bond election. On top of the obvious thing of we're behind on the 2020 projects, was that we didn't feel as a group that we had adequate design to be able to tell the voters exactly what they were getting and how much it was going to cost them. So we said, let's slow it down. Let's actually go through and start designing some of these projects. And once we've got some projects on the shelf, then we can consider coming back to the voters and say, look, we've got all these projects ready. Here's the OPC, the opinion of probable cost. This is what you're going to get. This is how much we think it's going to cost. Then we can show you in black and white exactly what you're voting for. And so some of these projects, that's the thought, is start doing some of the design, some of the feasibility, some of those kind of things on expanding, say, the Justice Center, so that when we go to the voters in 2028 for our 2029 construction, then we would start doing, we would have better information. And I know that you're seeing that there's also some construction costs in there, but here's the other thing that you have to consider. When city council vacates this area, right, they no longer need this conference room, they no longer need this setup. So the police chief came to us and said, I need to do something with this space, because that's the whole point of you guys vacating it, is I need to be able to use this. And so we've allocated some money in there so that he can be using this space rather than it just being set up for a conference, which he doesn't need anymore. And so that's the things that you're seeing on the Justice Center, and probably we need to do a better job of kind of explaining that and quantifying that in the text, so that it's a little clearer what we're actually proposing. But that, I don't know if that helps with your specific question or not.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think probably why it got flagged as a higher concern is because it was $24 million in future CO debt. Instead of seeing maybe that 2.3 million in future CO and then 2029 and on being in future geo debt. So that's why I read it as it was fully going to be funded by CO.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing that we're working on, is not trying to say future geo for future CO, future whatever, because we don't know, right? So I'm having those conversations where I'm suggesting that we just say future debt. And then that way council can make the decision, do we want to do COs, do we want to GOs? What are we going to do? How are we going to fund this stuff? And then, of course, the legislature always weighs into that too, because they keep having conversations about, are we going to continue to allow cities to do COs? Or are we going to require all things to be done through GO elections? So there's a lot of stuff to weigh into that particular aspect of this process.
Okay. Okay.
So, I'd like to start at the end and then go this way on how you would like to proceed with, like, some of your opinions, and then see how everybody else's opinions match with that, I guess.
Sure. Like I said, my main concern is that we not increase taxes, which you've addressed that also, and that there is methods to save cost in this. And so if we come to the city council with a recommendation that we can adopt it, but no increase in taxes, and I think that would give city staff time to look at this and see where those cost savings are for 2027 and see how things can be related. And that way, when it comes to the budget in September, we got something more formalized for 2027 that doesn't impact taxes. Because my main concern is when I see potential waste, but we're saying we're going to increase taxes at the same time. And if we can stop that, I'd be much more comfortable.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So whenever you're referencing no increase to property taxes, but they've noted that the 2026 bond that they're currently working on is anticipated to increase property tax, but it would go to voters to vote. Is your recommendation that, like, holistically, this CIP should not be related to any type of property tax increase at all, or not anything in addition to what they're anticipating with the 2026 bond?
I mean, that's what I would like to see, is no taxes at all.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar enough with the 2026 bonds to make that an absolute statement.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I feel similarly. I think it is important to continue and finish all projects that are started. I do think you can absolutely get into a situation where you've wasted a lot of time and money, and if staff is pursuing things, they need to get those projects finished.
Can I just clarify that? We're not talking about projects that have been designed, but projects that are under construction? Or what do you mean by started?
I'd probably draw the line at if they've spent money in 2026.
Okay.
That it started, whether it's design or not. So I would probably defer to staff to decide. There are going to be some projects I feel like when you've designed it, if you stop at that point, the cost increases.
You may have to
or you have to
redesign,
redesign and rebid, and I don't want to waste that time.
Right.
But generally, I think having the touch point be no, don't take on more debt that increases the tax rate. And I am somewhat ambivalent as to the bond issue. If we want to say no increased tax rate unless voters approve a bond, that makes some sense. If the voters say yes, we want this bond, well then I don't know that it's our place to say no. So that's kind of where I'm leaning.
I mean, personally, I echo the thought process that we're having. Obviously, anything we can do to minimize tax rate increases, whatever that looks like, I'm just not smart enough to line item it, is the right thing to do, especially given where we are in the current times. I think I heard during the conversation there was potential, bond 1 year and then a follow-on another bond. That would just be a very hard pill, I think, for the voters to swallow. So anything we can do to minimize it, I won't say zero it, because I just don't know enough to make that statement, but I think to minimize it to whatever extent we can would be the right direction. And I think that would be something council should consider as well. We're just in some very uncertain times right now. I like the fact that we stopped the transportation bond and we'll double down on getting things done that's already started. Started is a function of whether it's designed. Clearly, if it's already in motion, let's get that done. Right? That's expedite if we can. I know that will go a long way into winning over our voters as well, because a lot of frustration is that it's not done. And that's why I asked the question. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, Chair, is to minimize the tax increases.
Okay.
Double down what you're doing with the transportation. Get those projects done. Let's get the voters' confidence back up to where we can start asking for more as we go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. I would echo what we've already talked about, and then also I know earlier just talking about maybe pulling together projects and breaking down silos where that's possible.
Thank you.
I'm not going to be long-winded, I promise. I'll try not to be. But I think that we're in a challenging time, and I can imagine a lot of folks in the city can feel that too, where there's a lot of things that the city needs that have been not done or prioritized or funded for a very long time. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of things are getting done, now. So I'm very supportive of the things that city staff recommends. There's a lot of work that goes into master planning. There's a lot of community feedback. Being a part of the Parks and Rec Commission showed me how much work goes into that master plan alone. So I really appreciate the priorities and where costs are being allocated, because I know they are backed with logic and feedback from the community. But I do think that if there are projects that are currently unfunded, so whether it's like started or not, for me, it's really, is it have a set funding source that has already been approved and allocated for? So even if it hasn't started, if it's funded, it's funded. I think that those should continue as they are, and anything that is unfunded should go to election for voters to have a chance to give feedback on property tax increases. So anything related to future CO debt that would not go to voters but would have an impact on property taxes because it would increase the debt beyond what our property tax can currently handle, I would not recommend that we continue with those projects and instead consider those within the bond as props for folks to give feedback on. And I highly recommend that the 2026 bond program has props for people to have choice on what they would like to approve and move forward with.
Yeah, I actually am in agreement with that as well, because I believe the city, the folks of the city should make the rules or at least have an input on it. So I do agree with that. I think we should finish the projects that we have on the table. And I'm not sure about design, like starting the ones that are in design, if they haven't been to an engineer and architect right now, and they're allotted to go to an engineer or architect right now, and in almost design phase. I don't think we should do those at all until we finish our current projects. And then I say, from a developer standpoint, oh my gosh, if we don't start some of these projects, we're going to be way behind. So, so I am in a quandary, but I do understand, and I don't want my taxes to go up. It's hard to live in this world. So I think everything should, not everybody votes, but it'd be nice for voters to understand that it's important to go, and a prop is a proposition, so that'd be nice to go out and vote for a proposition and understand where your money's going instead of talking about it, which I love Reddit, talking about it on Reddit. I'm all for halting, stopping at the moment, and just doing the projects that we have in hand. So, and not increasing tax rate. Okay.
Just to clarify, because I want to make sure you get the right direction. You had said that I think there's a difference between not increasing the tax rate and not taking on any debt whatsoever.
Yes.
It sounded like there is some delta where for projects that you've already got approved or a funding source, you could take on additional debt, but it will not raise taxes.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so I think
Yes.
we're okay with
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, with
That's-
just not extra debt,
Okay.
not more debt, and we
That
need to
don't
finish
raise
the,
tax rate,
we need,
right, right.
we need to
Okay.
finish the projects we have. I mean, that's just, we have so much money left over from 2020 that we haven't used, so, yeah, that's where I'm at.
When we take this to council, to what level of granular detail is it? A plan just like this, or?
Yes, they're getting this, well, not this book, they're getting.
You're right.
The next version.
So they basically have the same information we have in terms of,
Yes.
hopefully they got more time to look at it and digest it.
Yeah, and previously last year, we essentially sit in the front and they open it up for us to say, hey, what are our we summarize our feedback. What are some of the things that we thought? What are some of the things that we considered? And then after that, they start the presentation, and then they're able to give feedback at the so. If you come, you're even able, if we wanted to, go down the line, and they could give direct feedback related to what your specific thoughts were
Okay.
at the city
Thank you for
council
the
meeting.
insight.
Do you want, I'm sorry, do you want our feedback before it gets to council? Or, I mean, you have it now, but I mean, do you want it in writing or anything?
I believe that we typically do have a letter that is coming from.
Since Vance hasn't been here.
Provide some assistance.
We have been comments.
Well, good evening. I don't think I've met all of you. Emily Barone, Assistant City Manager. What we would ask is a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So overall, what would you say as a whole to the City Council? You can certainly, during that, why it's posted as a joint meeting is to have conversation between you all and City Council is really beneficial. And I think hearing you all tonight has been helpful. So while sitting in the audience, I took a note, and I'll throw it out there for you, because I think this is what I heard overall. Please feel free to adjust it, because I know it's a really challenging topic. There's a lot into it. Matt, Jeff, Shane, our entire CIP team has put a lot of effort into it, and we've been going through a lot of pieces, and apologize for all of the transitions. And so I think what I heard from you all as a recommendation would be to recommend approval of the CIP with a focus on completing current projects while not issuing additional debt unless the project is already underway, to the gap that Matt talked about, or considered through a 2026 bond program.
There.
High level kind of
Yeah,
encompasses
that's
it.
fair.
You can get into the details with council as you see, but overall, as a CIP as a whole, that's what I heard listening to you all this evening.
Yeah.
If helpful.
So do we make a motion here
Yes.
tonight? Okay.
Do it.
Yeah. Can you make the motion? I'm just kidding. Wait, give me your phone and I'll make the
Yes.
motion
Yes.
with your phone.
Great song.
Yeah. Before we adjourn and before we accept a motion, I do want to say, because if library and pause is listening, we were not picking on you. You just happened to be the ones that were right there. So,
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I just want to note too, sorry, like related to library expansion, Justice Center expansion, pause expansion, it's a lot of expansion and it's to the point that I was trying to be articulate about, but it's late and I'm very
Well-
pregnant as well. My brain is floating away. But yeah, we recognize that there are expansions because there hasn't been, these projects have not been prioritized in the past. So, yeah, we're not questioning at all the need or the value.
correct.
Yeah, mostly
that's
just
what I was
the-
trying to say. The library is very valued and pause is very valued, but those are two of I like.
And you
but-
can show your value and your thoughts on the value by being a voter.
Yes, exactly, and I vote all the time.
Okay.
Okay, so, yes, so I'd like to make a motion on the interpretation of our request to the council first.
So I'll make a motion. I'm going to try to repeat that.
Yes.
That I make a motion to approve the CIP with focus on and a consideration of focusing on the projects that are already underway, currently funded, and not adding any new debt to projects that are not started that would increase property tax rate and anything that would to be included in the 2026 bond.
Are we approving the CIP or
We're
we're using
recommending.
recommendation? Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? No? Okay. So, yeah, the motion passes. And I adjourn the meeting at 8:42 PM.
I would just say, Matt, good job, by the way. I know you did a lot.